Chair, and I'm motivated to stand up and take a very brief call because I do want to respond to Mr Nash, and I notice that Mr Nash is walking closer to Mr William Seo, and I'd like to suggest that Mr Nash actually have a chat to Mr William Seo, because he may or may not be aware that Mr Seo, of course, is the former Deputy Mayor of Manukau City. He also may not be aware that Manukau City has some 40 CCOs. Some 40 CCOs. Now, when I first came to Parliament, I was very pleased to renew my acquaintance with Len Brown, who I'd gone through intermediate school with. And Mr Brown came to Parliament, introduced himself to me. He actually made the point that CCOs had been very successful in Manukau City. And so when I hear Mr Nash stand up and grandstand about the lack of democracy and citizens not feeling as though they're participating in society and having a say in the local government, I ask him, has he spoken to Mr Seo? Because clearly Mr Seo was Deputy Mayor of a council that has and still has 40 CCOs that the current Mayor Len Brown supports. Current Mayor Len Brown supports. Let me turn now to the comments regarding the Asian Advisory Panel. I thought it was very interesting that we have a criticism of the government that we're introducing an Asian Advisory Panel and a Pacific Advisory Panel, and that those panellists are only being appointed for 3 years. Well, may I suggest to the member that he actually talks to Mr Phil Twyford, because if he talks to Mr Phil Twyford, he'll find that Mr Twyford's led a campaign about how Wellington is dictating to the people of Auckland what this bill should say, how Auckland should be run. So rather than impose Asian Advisory Panel as a Pacific Advisory Panel for more than 3 years, we're provided in legislation for a 3-year term. It's then up to the Council to decide whether they want to continue with that. The alternative surely is to provide a Pacific Advisory Panel and a Asian Advisory Panel in eternity. But if we were to do that, we'd be told that the people in Wellington, the politicians in Wellington, were imposing on the people of Auckland what their requirements should be. So all I can suggest, Mr Chair, is that members of the Labour Party actually talk to each other, and I'd encourage Mr Nash to talk to Mr Seo, because clearly he was a Deputy Mayor of a council that has 40 CCOs.
Point of order, Dr Trevor.
Is misrepresenting our position. We actually propose advisory board previous bill.
Order. That is not a point of order. That's a debating point. John Boscawen.
Thank you, Mr Chair. Well, I guess the part that I heard was there was a criticism that we had an Asian Advisory Panel for 3 years and 3 years only, a Pacific Advisory Panel for 3 years and 3 years only, and so I presume that the Labour Party's strategy or recommendation will be that the bill should actually have an Asian and a Pacific Advisory Panel in perpetuity. And had we done that, we would have simply had criticism from Mr Twyford that we're imposing the will of politicians in Wellington on the people of Auckland. That's all I have to say, Mr Chair. Thank you.